Hi everybody, Namaste, Hare Krishna, greetings to everyone wherever you're watching from. Thank you for joining me here today. This is going to be part 6 of Vegetarianism in the Bible. I hope you enjoyed part 5, Interpretive Problems, about the word meat. That's a very unique section in this series of videos. Please check it out if you already haven't. Link will be below, or the annotation will be up here somewhere. So check that out. Today we're going to discuss the Paschal Lamb. Did Jesus eat lamb just before he was being crucified as the final supper? So we're going to discuss a little bit about that. We won't go into thoroughly. Everything that I'm discussing today or in this series of videos is just a small inkling of what I'm going to do eventually, which is bring out more thorough examination of that even. So join me here today, and please, this is your first time joining me here, welcome. Please subscribe, comment, rate, and share. Thank you very much. While there is familiar symbolism in Jesus as the Good Shepherd and as the Lamb of God, the Paschal Lamb offers a problem for vegetarian Christians. Was the Last Supper a Passover meal in which Jesus and the apostles feasted on the flesh of a lamb? The synoptic first three Gospels say that the Last Supper was the Passover meal, which would imply that Jesus and his followers ate the Passover lamb. John, however, says that the Last Supper took place earlier. Now before the feast of Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour was come, riseth from the supper, and layeth aside his garments, and he took a towel and girded himself. But if the time sequence were different, then the Last Supper would not have been a Passover meal. In his excellent book, Why Kill for Food, English historian Geoffrey Rudd analyzes the problem of the Paschal Lamb in the following way. The Last Supper took place on a Thursday evening, the crucifixion on the very next day, Friday. However, according to the Jewish perspective, these two events occur on the same day as the Jewish full day begins at sundown of the previous evening. Naturally, this gets quite confusing in chapter 19 of his Gospel. John says that the crucifixion took place on the day of the preparation of the Passover, which would be Thursday. Later, in verse 31, he says that the body of Jesus was not left on the cross because the day of the Sabbath was a high day. In other words, the Passover on the Sabbath began at sundown that Friday, after the crucifixion. Although the first three Gospels contradict John's version, which most biblical scholars consider an accurate account, in other passages they support it. In Matthew 26:5, for instance, the priest says that they will not kill Jesus during the feast, lest a tumult rise among the people. On the other hand, the Gospel of Matthew elsewhere puts the Last Supper and the crucifixion on the day of the Passover. Furthermore, it must be noted that according to Talmudic custom, there would be no question of holding trials and executing people on the first and holiest days of Passover. The Passover being as holy as the Sabbath, the Jews would not carry weapons if it had begun, nor would they buy linen and spices for the burial. Finally, the haste with which the disciples put Jesus in the tomb is consistent with their desire that his body be removed from the cross before the Passover began. Actually, the lamb is conspicuous by its absence. It is never even mentioned in connection with the Last Supper. The biblical historian J.A. Glizes suggests that in substituting bread and wine for flesh and blood in the divine sacrifice, Jesus announced the new alliance between man and God, a true reconciliation with all his creatures. If Jesus had been a meat eater, he would have used the lamb and not bread as a symbol of divine passion, in which the Lamb of God is slain for the sins of the world. All evidence indicates that the Last Supper was not the Passover supper with its traditional lamb, but rather it was a farewell meal that Jesus lovingly shared with his disciples. This was confirmed by the late Reverend Charles Gore, Bishop of Oxford. We will assume John is right when he corrects Mark as to the nature of the Last Supper. It was not the Paschal meal proper, but a supper observed as a farewell supper with his disciples. Nor do the accounts of the supper suggest the ceremonial of the Passover meal.